如果你在聆听时不需要频繁暂停，就能理解大意，那么你的英语积累在日常表达中是完全够用的。我们开始吧。
You never really know a person until the day they slip, the day the mask cracks, the day their true colors burst out like paint spilled on white floor. And this story begins with one man who spent years trying to look gray. His name was Tom. A quiet man. The type who always stood at the back of the room, hands in pockets, eyes lowered, voice soft like he was afraid of taking up space. People liked him. But more in the way you like a chair, useful, steady, always there, never loud. Tom worked in a harbor town where the sky smelled of salt and old rope. Ships came and went every day, and every ship carried stories the wind refused to keep. Tom watched them from the pier. He liked the calm. He liked the simple rhythm. And he liked that no one ever asked him who he really was. But one stormy evening, the ocean stopped being gentle. Dark clouds rolled in fast. Waves slapped the docks hard enough to shake the boards. Most workers packed their tools and ran home before the rain swallowed the sky. Tom stayed. He stayed because he saw a small fishing boat fighting the waves, twisting like a broken toy. A single lantern swung wildly at the bow. Someone was still out there. Someone who had no chance of making it back alone. And here comes the first crack in Tom's quiet mask. He didn't shout for help. He didn't hesitate. He just moved fast, as if he had been waiting for this storm his whole life. Tom jumped into an old rowboat tied to the pier. The wood creaked under him. Wind slapped his face. Rain stung his eyes. He rowed anyway, pushing into the angry water with a strength nobody in town knew he had. For a moment, lightning flashed. And in that flash, Tom wasn't the soft-spoken man people thought he was. His eyes were sharp, focused, fearless. He reached the small fishing boat just as another wave crashed over it. A young deckhand clung to the rail, shaking, soaked, nearly slipping into the sea. Tom grabbed him by the collar. "Hold on," he said. His voice wasn't soft now. It cut through the storm like rope through fog. They barely made it back to the pier. People ran over once they saw two shadows moving through the rain. They shouted, wrapped blankets around the deckhand, pulled him toward the warehouse for warmth. And Tom just stood there, dripping, quiet as ever. But people stared at him in a new way. Because for the first time, they had seen a flash of the real Tom. A color brighter and bolder than the quiet gray he had worn for years. And stories like this, they don't stay quiet in a harbor town. By the next morning, the whole town was buzzing. Old men at the pier talked about the storm like it had been a monster with teeth. Kids ran around swinging imaginary oars. And everyone kept repeating the same line, "Tom showed his true colors last night." Tom heard it everywhere he went. At the bakery. At the docks. Even from strangers passing by with baskets of fish. It made him uneasy. Not because he hated attention, but because he had spent half his life hiding from it. For years, Tom believed people only liked him because he stayed small, quiet, safe. He thought showing anything bold or loud would push people away. So he locked his real self deep inside, the way sailors lock gold in wooden chests. But now the chest was cracked open. One afternoon, while Tom repaired nets behind the warehouse, the deckhand he had saved approached him. The boy was young, maybe 17, with freckles and a nervous smile. "Sir," the boy said, "I didn't get to thank you. Everyone says the storm almost took the boat. You saved my life." Tom shook his head. "I did what anyone would have done." The boy's smile faded a little. "That's not true." His words hit Tom harder than the storm wind. The boy sat beside him, lowering his voice. "You know, some people pretend to be brave. But you didn't pretend. You just were." Tom didn't know what to say. Compliments always felt like clothes that didn't fit. The boy hesitated. Ben added, "My captain used to tell me, a man's true colors show when no one's watching. Last night, no one saw you go out there. You could have walked home. But you didn't." Tom's hands froze around the net rope. Something about those words stirred an old ache in him, an ache he had tried for years to bury. The boy left soon after, running back to his crew. Tom stayed on the pier long after sunset. The tide brought memories he didn't want. A different storm. A different night. A choice he made long ago but never forgave himself for. He had not always been the quiet man people saw today. Once, he had been bold, fearless, certain. And then one mistake had taught him how fast certainty could drown. That night years ago, Tom had been on a ship with his younger brother. A sudden storm swallowed their vessel, and in the chaos, Tom lost him. The guilt hollowed him out like waves carving a cliff. Since then, Tom hid his strength the way a wounded animal hides its scars. He believed that being invisible meant being safe. Safe from pain. Safe from loss. Safe from failing again. But storms don't ask if you're ready. And sometimes the sea forces the truth out of a man, whether he wants it or not. Standing on the pier, Tom felt something shift inside him. Not a loud shift. More like the soft click of a locked door opening for the first time in years. Maybe showing your true colors wasn't about being perfect. Maybe it was simply about being honest. And honesty felt lighter than he remembered. In the days that followed, Tom noticed something strange. people didn't treat him like a hero. They treated him like someone they finally saw. The baker greeted him with a warmth she'd never shown before. Fishermen who barely nodded at him in the past now invited him to sit on overturned crates and share stories while they patched sails. Even the harbor kids, usually wild as seagulls, started running up to him, asking him to show them how to tie real sailor knots. Tom wasn't used to any of this. Attention still felt like a coat 2 sizes too big. But he didn't shrink away from it anymore. One evening, as the sun dipped into the sea and stained the water orange, the harbor master approached Tom with a wooden box tucked under his arm. The man was older, with a beard that looked like sea foam caught in rope. He set the box beside Tom. "Open it," he said. Inside lay a polished brass compass. Old, but beautifully kept. The needle trembled like it was alive. Tom looked up, confused. "I can't accept this." "It's not a gift," the harbor master said. "It's a return." Tom blinked. "A return?" The harbor master sighed. "Years ago, your brother brought that compass to my shop. Said he wanted to fix it for you. Told me you were the kind of man who always steered others home." Tom's breath stopped. His hands shook as he touched the compass, like it might shatter under his fingers. "He never came back for it," the harbor master continued softly. "So I kept it. Didn't know when to give it to you. Didn't know how. But after what you did in the storm, I figured the time had come." Tom stared at the needle. It pointed north, steady and sure. For a long time, the only sound was the slow wash of waves against the pilings. Then Tom whispered, "You believe that about me?" The harbor master nodded. "Son, everyone hides. But you hide deeper than most. Maybe it's time you stopped." Tom didn't answer. He just closed the box gently, like closing a door on a room filled with ghosts. But something inside him cracked open again, deeper this time, sharper, almost painful. Memories of his brother weren't just sorrow now. They carried color. Bright, stubborn color. That night, Tom sat alone at the pier with the compass in his lap. The moon shone like a silver coin on the water. The whole harbor slept. Tom finally whispered into the dark, "I'm still trying. I'm still here." The words felt like a confession. But they also felt like a beginning. Because for the first time in years, Tom wasn't trying to disappear. He wasn't trying to be gray. He wasn't trying to live small and quiet. The storm had torn away the mask he thought he needed. Now the world could see the colors he'd buried, and maybe more important, Tom could see them too. A week later, the harbor held its annual night market, The only night of the year when every pier glowed with lanterns and music drifted across the water like warm smoke. Tom had never stayed long at the market before. Crowds made him feel like he was walking through waves, unsteady, unsure of where to step. But this year was different. He walked slowly through the rows of stalls, past fried fish smoke, wooden toys, carved shells, and sailors trading stories louder than the band playing on the docks. People waved at him. Not out of curiosity. Out of familiarity. Tom felt the difference. Near the edge of the pier, he spotted the young deckhand, the boy he had saved, helping his captain set up a table of small copper charms shaped like anchors. The boy brightened when he saw Tom. "Sir, come here." Tom smiled a little, still shy but not hiding. The captain, a tall man with sunburned cheeks, studied Tom closely. "You're the one who rode into that storm," he said. Tom shrugged. "Just did what needed doing." The captain laughed, shaking his head. "Son, storms show who we really are. Some men freeze. Some run. Some rise. You didn't even think. You just went." Tom looked away, heat rising to his face. He had been called many things in his life: quiet, reliable, distant, but never brave. He didn't quite know how to wear that word. Before he could answer, the music shifted. A soft violin rose above the chatter, and lanterns swayed in the breeze. People began gathering at the center of the pier, forming a loose circle for the night's dance. The deckhand nudged Tom. "You should join." Tom shook his head. "I don't dance." The boy grinned. "Neither do half the people out there. That's why it's fun." Tom opened his mouth to refuse again, but then he noticed the harbor master standing across the crowd, watching him with a knowing smile, arms folded like he'd been waiting for Tom to step into something bigger than a quiet life. Tom hesitated. Just for a breath. Then he walked toward the circle. It felt strange at first. Too many faces. Too much noise. Too much space he wasn't used to taking up. But when the music picked up, something small inside him eased. The steps were simple, slow, gentle, just a sway of feet and a turn of shoulders. No pressure. No judgment. Only lantern light and warm night air. For the first time in years, Tom didn't feel like he was watching life from the edges. He was in it. Part of it. A color in the painting instead of a shadow behind it. As he moved with the circle, he caught bits of laughter, bits of conversations, bits of stories he had never let himself be part of. And then came a moment, a small one, but sharp enough to stay with him. An old woman stepped beside him during the dance. She looked up at him with a soft smile and said, "You've always had strong colors, dear. You just forgot they were yours." Tom almost stumbled. That simple sentence hit deeper than the storm winds, deeper than the cold sea nights, deeper than any memory he carried. He didn't know the woman, but somehow she had seen right through him. The dance ended with a gentle cheer. Lanterns flickered. The violin faded. The night grew calm again. Tom stepped to the edge of the pier and looked out at the dark water. Years ago, the ocean had taken everything from him. Now, somehow, it was giving something back. Not forgiveness. Not answers. But space, space to be more than the quiet shell he had learned to hide behind. He touched the compass hanging in his pocket. The brass felt warm from the lantern light. Maybe true colors weren't something you revealed once. Maybe they were something you learned to live with, day by day, storm by storm. Tom breathed in the night air. It tasted like salt and hope. And for the first time in a very long time, he didn't feel like he was drowning. He felt like he was surfacing. A few days after the night market, the sky turned clear and bright, the kind of blue that made the whole harbor look newly painted. Tom walked along the pier with a steady pace, nodding at fishermen, answering greetings he once would have avoided. Something in him had shifted for good, quietly, but unmistakably. That morning, the harbor master called out from his office door. "Tom, got a minute?" Tom stepped inside. The room smelled like rope, ink, and old maps curled at the corners. The harbor master pointed to a chair. "I've been thinking," he said, rubbing his beard. "We could use someone like you on the rescue crew." Tom froze. "Me? You've got calm hands. Good judgment. And you don't wait around when someone's in trouble." Others saw that in the storm. I saw it long before. Tom swallowed. "I haven't been part of a crew in a long time." "I know," the harbor master replied gently. "But that doesn't mean you can't be again." Tom looked down at his hands, scarred from rope burns, rough from years of quiet work, strong in ways he had forgotten. He thought of his brother. Of the night he failed. Of the guilt he dragged like an anchor. Then he thought of the boy he saved. Of the dance. Of the compass. Of people seeing him, really seeing him. The harbor master leaned in. "Storms don't wait, son. But neither does life." Tom didn't answer right away. He stared at the compass tucked in his pocket. The world had taken so much from him. But maybe this moment, was the world giving him a chance to choose again. Finally, he nodded. "Yes," he said quietly. "I'll join." The harbor master smiled wide, like he had been waiting years to hear that. Good. Training starts tomorrow at dawn. Don't be late. Tom stepped out of the office, the sunlight hitting him full in the face. He squinted, but didn't turn away. As he walked down the pier, people waved to him, some with excitement, some with pride, some with simple warmth. Tom returned every wave. Not shy. Not hiding. Just present. The compass bounced lightly against his leg with each step, as if reminding him that direction wasn't something found in maps, it was found in choices. He reached the end of the pier, the place where the sea opened wide, where he used to stand alone and quiet. Now he stood there with his shoulders set and his breath steady. The ocean rolled calmly today, but Tom knew storms would come again. Storms always came. But he also knew something new, something that felt like truth. A person's true colors aren't the parts they show when life is easy. They're the parts that fight to the surface when life gets hard. The parts that survive grief. The parts that step into storms. The parts that rise when everything in the world tries to push them back down. Tom looked out at the horizon and whispered, "I'm ready." His voice didn't shake. It sounded like someone who had finally returned to himself. The wind carried the words across the calm waves as if the sea was listening. And in that moment, Tom knew his colors weren't something to hide anymore. They were something to live by, bold, honest, imperfect, and real. The same colors his brothers saw in him. The same colors the storm uncovered. The same colors that had been waiting all these years for him to stop being afraid. Tom stepped back from the edge of the pier. A stronger man. A louder color. A life no longer lived in gray. In the harbor, with all its winds and waves and wandering souls, seemed to breathe with him, like it had been waiting for this too.
作为一个母语非英语的人，能把故事听完，你的进步太大了。感谢你收看这个节目。如果你觉得这个节目对你有帮助，请给我一个点赞，或者留下评论，这对我很重要。我们下个视频见。